Welcome to a new Paradigm of Education podcast. I'm your host, Monique Sayers, and today we have a special guest with us called Vanessa Ares. I'll introduce her and then I'll also introduce our podcast to you today. So Vanessa is a dreamer with her eyes open and a compulsive question maker. It's in the observation of ecosystems that she finds her peace and her inspiration. In children, she finds the faith she needs to fulfill her life missions to cooperate in order to empower more resilient and caring communities. Combining her training as a developmental psychologist with independent training in different areas from nature-based facilitation to nature systems design, she aims to actively contribute in the development of safe hubs, which promote humans, small and grown-up, connection with their nature based off communities and towards living a symbiosis with other ecosystems. Wow, that is such a beautiful description of what you do, Vanessa. I really love it. And what I want to just quickly just share with our listeners who are tapping into this new Paradigm of Education podcast, maybe for the first time. A new paradigm of education is a letting go of everything that wasn't serving us in education. And we've seen that happen through the pandemic. We've seen a lot of destruction occurring, but what we've also seen is a lot of beauty and a lot of these amazing new types of schools, new types of education, new ways of living appearing before our eyes. And so what I was really drawn to Vanessa was when I saw what she's been doing in the world, especially with ecosystems and infrastructure, and also her background. I was like, wow, I can't wait to dive in and just speak with you. So would you just share a little bit more about yourself, just so people can feel who you are and just to welcome us further to the podcast? Thank you.
Yes, first of all, thank you for your invitation. It's very nice to be part of something that is growing now as well and connecting so many parents and educators around. And my path, it was a little bit with traveling and getting to know new communities as well. I was raised in Portugal, North Portugal, by the coast, and I come from a very small town compared to any small towns around. And I was always connected to nature in a way. Like I would always love to go to the ocean and to play around there. Then my grandparents, they had some land that would be growing some crops and had the animals to take care of. So I was pretty much growing up on dirt and playing with animals and with my grandparents and the neighbors. So that was me growing up. So that already had an impact for sure. And then when I had to decide what to study, I was very interested in psychology. And one of the reasons that took me into psychology was my willingness to become a volunteer, international volunteer with international cooperation and so on. And I was very curious about all of the programs of international cooperation in Asia, for instance. And but it felt like a big step, like very far away from where you are, and all of these fears popped up. So I got to know an opportunity for volunteering after my studies in Italy. And that's what I did. I went to live 1 year in Italy, in the north of the country, to work with the children and youth. And I was bringing already some of my approach and vision of psychology applied to the daily life of the children. And yeah, we would play, supporting homework. It was a youth center. And also some months we did the summer camps, so all about playing in nature and connection and community-based. And of course, observing how would the Italian system work and comparing it with the Portuguese. And just some years before, I had also some winter seasons in Switzerland. And so I got to know how Swiss people would raise their children. And yeah, when I was in Italy, I met some people that were working with an international association that would support children in Nepal. So then that's my link to Nepal. And in October 2014, I flew to Nepal. And what was to be like a 4 months experiment, or 3 months, very short, like brief moment, it turned to be 7 months. of living in Nepal with the local family. And I was also volunteering with children and teenagers aged between 4 and 18, more or less, in a foster's home. Yes, this brought me to my project that I have been developing for the past 3 years, like 4 years in development, implementation 2.5 years. And in Nepal, I saw children who were deeply connected with each other, who were deeply connected with their own rhythms in a way. Of course, they were going to the public school, private school, but still they were super connected. They were caring for each other. They would take care of the house, take care of the neighbors. And it came to my mind. I started wondering, what is it different? No? So from there, all of these things guided me to Ketiketa, which means girl boy in Nepalese. And it brought all of this willingness of mine, and then the people that I met the way, and I invited some friends in and some reference people in education and pedagogy to create this kind of safety nest, like a community nest in forest, in a piece of land, very small, I had from my family in Aveiro, the city I was born. And so we start to develop it with the community. So someone was good at painting, someone was good at construction, someone was good with plants. So we gathered everyone around, and we started the first nature-based kindergarten, who is designed under permaculture principles and ethics in Portugal. And that's what we were doing for the past 2.5 years. My main focus was, and it is, the support of the team. So a lot supporting the adults on the system. So because I believe that if adults are in a way balanced and are committed in their own inner process of development, they will already be ready to just follow up and facilitate kids' development, the children's development. And so I work a lot with this. And of course, in the work with the children, my passion really to show them that they already have all the skills they need. Like on them, they experiment. That's the basic of everything, just experimenting. And I'm there to give them support them with labeling, what's their feelings, what is happening with them. So I tend to bring a little bit of easiness or simplicity into all of this, what is psychology and all of this like psychotherapy thing, and one person against another sitting on chairs. No, I prefer to give it a more organic look. So that's what I've been trying to experiment.
Wow, there's so much to reflect back on with your history of everything that you've been doing. And I just want to also share, I've also been in Nepal myself. And one of my memories was I was like, one of those tourist backpackers trekking through Nepal with like little souvenirs to give to children. I had these little toy koalas, and I was like, oh, they're going to love these koalas. So like I opened my backpack and I gave a koala to one of the children. It looked at it, it threw it to the side, and then it picked up its little hose that it had been playing with and made an elephant noise. And obviously this little toy that it had made itself from its backyard hose chopped up into an elephant was far more interesting than this fancy tourist toy that I was there to provide. And I was just like, wow, this is really an eye-opener, how children are. And in Africa, it was the same. In Africa, when I was sitting on my safari truck and I would look outside the window, and the children would just smile with these biggest beams of light, like Jumbo, which means hello. And my heart would just be like, wow, I just want to serve you. This was before I was a teacher, and it was actually my calling to be a teacher when I was in Africa. My heart was exploding to serve. And they didn't want anything except water bottles, because water bottles were so useful for them that they could, go to their village and fill their water tanks up with water. And again, it was just another eye-opener of what do children really need? What do they actually need? And thank you for sharing that with me around that. And did you find that when you were, I've got other questions to ask based off what you were sharing, but did you find when you were building these kind of infrastructures with these community members that were all coming in, was it this kind of mirroring that was happening, that you were just kind of focusing on what was needed versus what is, like what I'm saying, like the toy koalas, you know, like...
Yeah, I'm my base on building up the structure on a framework would be a lot on social entrepreneurship and cultural entrepreneurship, and on the education of entrepreneurs, you always listen this minimum value product. So with me, this goes along with the saying from permaculture, small scale intensive. So whenever you design something, just start as small as you can with like the minimum possible to make it happen, and then you prove your pilot, let's say. And once you can see that it's working, then you scale it slowly. You make it bigger. So I went exactly to understand what were the minimum infrastructures that I would need to make it happen and to have a safe hub for the children and the families. And one thing was basics for us. It's like a shelter was needed. So I went for the most basic one, which also recalled us for the tribe ancestrality, and which is a teepee. And it brought me a lot of memories, like, you know, all of these memories that we have sitting in circles. I'm also a way of counsel facilitator, and all of these sitting in circle, being in circle. So a circle infrastructure with the tripod that really holds things, the triangle form, know that it's the strongest one. So that was our like minimum. We need this. So we had to find one and build it. And then looking at the land from the eyes of the permaculture designer, what is needed. And then I introduced an educator, a trained pedagogue, early years educator, who had been working for the past 10 years on this subject, like designing educational spaces outdoors for children. And also I had been trained in forest school. So it was kind of a combination on the designing and planification team, let's say, strategy, looking into the space and also asking to the space what needs to become, what it wants to become as well. And of course, there were families coming, and we would get their feedback. But for the very first beginning, it was a lot this communication with the land. And I remember also having different sessions of meditation in the land, and really staying there and connecting with the land. We did like this almost 1 year of observation of the land, understanding how the birds would come, which birds, and also other small animals from the ground that I don't know the names in English, but they were coming, and we would all see what was happening already there, you know, and kind of asking the permission and understanding where would the forest welcome the human beings in that in this sense, you know. So yes, it was a mix between the business model and the permaculture design and the knowledge of it, like our experiences as educators and pedagogues in a way. And yeah, we also had like architects on the game and on the discussion and all of these people. And yes.
This is amazing. This is really powerful information for people to learn about. Like, first of all, I love that you were, you know, asking the land, what does it need? Because you know what, like, it's necessary. People, I think in this old paradigm, there's just been this kind of construction or deconstruction of so many things, not even just ecosystems, but personalities, you know, work traits. Everything has come down to this kind of like almost harshness without this kind of stopping and allowing and asking for permission. So I really feel like that in itself is a new paradigm where you're just stopping, and it's actually ancient, right? This new paradigm, you're tapping into this ancient wisdom of like, let's pause, let's get into the heartbeat of the Mother Gaia and feel, well, what is it that she's asking for? And that just warms me to know that that's that's how you have gone about your planning, was not really around your planning. It was around, well, what is needed, what is there, and then what resources can we then bring in. It's really fascinating to me to learn this stuff, because I don't know much about infrastructure at all, to be honest. That's why I was like, let's ask somebody who knows this stuff to come on in, and somebody who's also very connected with caring for, you know, Mother Earth and stuff. So it's really beautiful. I wanted to know, like, so once it was all built, did you have then, like, kind of, was it like a community feel? So you'd then have people that were cooking, and you'd have people, like, would you all just take turns at doing different tasks to keep it kind of running, the project? Or how did it all kind of come together? People are probably wanting to know these small little details that maybe seem easy to you, but for us, we're like, well, what do you do next?
Yeah. I mean, it's not, there's not a one answer.
Yeah.
And that comes aligned with this that I was sharing. So I started in one community in Aveiro, and then we start the second project in the south of Portugal in Monchique. Mm-hmm. And anywhere I go, I also bring this previous experience of international cooperation. You know, that you arrive somewhere, and of course you ask the land, but then also you see what are the needs of the people and the context and the framework.
Good. Okay.
And in Portugal, you have this framework from education, which is, on a legal level, it's not ready for this kind of projects. So there was a big period of studying the law and understand what would be literally the gray areas where we could position ourselves in order to do it on a non-illegal way, not quite legal because there's no frame, but at least not being illegal. So this is one thing. And this, I bring this awareness because regarding food and cooking, the place we were, it was a small town, but still it was very exposed. So we could not cook inland. Otherwise, we could face some problems with the authority for food. So in Portugal, there's this thing, when you cook for other people, and this is part of a service, it needs to be a certified kitchen and so on.
Oh,
but
wow.
This was in Aveiro, yeah. In Monchique, though, we did the turns, like parents were sharing turns on cooking because it was a more remote location. So the energy was also different. It was a community that already existed. So, you know, there's these boundaries of holding that kind of puts all the legal and the things outside. It was still on the same framework, but these details were dealt in different ways. So you can cook in turns and or not. In our experience, both can work. But when you don't cook yourself, what we brought was the kids would bringing the food from home. So everyone would eat differently. So we would have a table which was very diverse. So we would bring the topic of biodiversity even at the table and inviting this mindful moment where we feel what we are having. And then practicalities, yes, on building the space, because we started with basics. So a teepee on the land and the path to get inside of the land that was safe and clear. And this was the first. And then as the families were coming and spending time with us and the children themselves, we would observe again what is needed, where are the kids going mostly? Where are them not going so much? Where should we put our food garden? Oh, here. Oh, now it's too small. And then we would enlarge it. For instance, we got the lockdown as everyone. And during the lockdown, me and my former colleagues, we were like doubling the size of the food garden because suddenly we had a lot of calls of people wanting to join us. So our little food garden would not go for everyone. So we did it, and it was ourselves. But for instance, we were needing some structure to protect from the rain, and that we would build on wood. So we call in a man from the community, which was already helping to build other things in other people's houses. And then for our water deposit and the compost toilet, we invited the friends from the husband of my former colleague. So, you know, and then parents would, some parents invested on some materials, some we upcycled. We are a huge fan of pallets. Pallets are our biggest friends. Mm-hmm. The supports you take for any kind of cargo. So these ones, we would find them in local shops that would offer them to us, not even charging for them.
Oh, great.
So we would just upcycling all of this. So yeah, there was this combination, every month we would meet, actually. We would call community circle so that we could celebrate or take decisions, or sometimes it was just to take care of the garden and the forest because we were regenerating the land at the same time. So yes, there was this flowing, but not specific tasks besides like the basics, like cleaning and taking care of the garden and so on. But the rest was very organic, like calling, okay, the need is here. Who would be interested? Who has the skills or is curious to learn from this? Okay, this group goes, and so on and so on.
Wow, wow. It almost brings me to tears, this kind of project, because it's just so beautiful that it's so interconnected and interwoven, and there's the curiosity, and everybody has their kind of place and their order within this type of community. I just love this. It's not this treadmill of people kind of showing up to then do a repeated task that they do, and then that's it, and then they go home back and it's over. It's like this almost like a feeling of a heart, that I feel like a circular heart, like everybody's just there together to be there for the land and for each other. And it seems really beautiful in that way. Maybe I'm idealizing it a little, but it seems amazing, you know. And what about the children? So I'm just curious with them, were they like naturally into, did they just love being on the land? Like, did they have that kind of innate knowing of what to do? Or was it like you needed to be guiding them like on the land with like the different tasks?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because it depends. Yeah, it depends how old is it, how old the child is, and what has been their experience before they arrived to us. We had children that were straight ahead, like, don't even talk to me. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm exploring all over. But this would be like children that are already used to go outdoors with the parents, or they are used to hike or something. And these kids, they know exactly what to do. And then it's like you asking permission to enter their safe zone and their playing zone.
Wow.
And this is also very fun. And other kids, we would meet that maybe the parents are not that much into outdoors, and that's exactly why they bring them to us. So that's as they didn't have that experience, or they are not familiar with outdoors, so they bring them to us. So kind of the child can lead. So for those kids would be more challenging. Like we had little girls that were, and boys that were not good with dirt on their hands, so they would always like, oh, it's dirty, can you support me? And yeah, there would be some that would not face very well the mud. They didn't like the mud that well, but it recalled to us that it has a lot to do with what kind of experiences did our body engaged with when we were little. So because when we would have visits from smaller children, like because we were working between 2 and 6 years old, but when we would receive younger children and babies, if you put them in the soil, in the forest, they are just curious. That's the natural thing. But yeah, it's very fun to observe also this, and also the parents, because we always welcome the entire family, not only the child. And when you would come to visit the place for prospecting that you would enroll, the entire family comes and we observe everyone. For instance, if the father is more insecure, you will see also a child that is more insecure in some places. So all of these we take into consideration, and then we work together with the family also to bring it to awareness at least. But yeah, I'm believing that innately children know how to be in outdoors in nature, because that's our nature, that's our habitat. But yeah, of course, the conditioning from society and how you were raised until to a certain age can take that from you, and then it just takes a little bit longer for you to reconnect again and to yes, remembering let's say how to be outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's a good perspective to see the differences. And I guess everybody is different, right? And I guess the longer a child is there, the more normalized it would seem to be living on the land. And what an amazing experience for all children to be learning. Like there's so much learning that would just be happening just within that small little patch on the garden, like just observing that in itself, you know. It's so that just to get a better perspective, so the children were coming just like for like a few hours a day or something, and then they'd be going back to their own homes, or were people staying overnight and things like that, like, or was it like a day kind of school set up, or what
Yeah,
was
it was
it?
like
Yeah,
a
a
daily
daily
care,
care. Okay.
kindergarten. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I didn't get that kind of
Yes, yes.
snapshot of exactly what it was.
Yes, Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. That
Okay.
was it.
Yeah. And so at the moment, are you working on any other projects or helping any other families around or things like that?
Yeah, we have been transforming because with the second lockdown, we got a really hard time managing everything and we lost some families. So we decided to change. We came to a close, and then this school year, we didn't have enrollments. So we are transforming into supporting communities, either in Portugal or abroad, but we have more knowledge of the law in Portugal. So supporting communities and projects who want to become more nature-based and like that already exists and want to transform into like going through a transition, or second, projects that are just starting, that maybe they, and we have been now working with a local community that was already for some years working with permaculture and with regeneration of the land and the crops and so on. And they now want to bring children into the environment. So this is something that, so we provide consultancy to any community, any projects, any group of people who would like to start something or who would like to transitioning into. And then me, individually, I also provide psychology sessions and coaching either to individuals or professionals. And one thing that it's been enthusiastic for me for the last months is creativity, and how to bring creativity back in the scene of people through nature-based activities, in a way reconnecting adults with their inner child through nature on a creative way, so that you can recall that creativity it's connected with the question you just asked. Are children naturally creative to know what to do outdoors? Yes, they are, but sometimes it takes more time to get there. So I'm also a lot now bringing this like nature as the field to reconnect with your inner child and your creativity.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's important for us as adults to be like making the changes within ourselves for our children to be seeing that within us. And a lot of the people I've been interviewing on this podcast, they've all been saying the same thing in a different way. Like, first we must heal ourselves, first we must work on ourselves, and then the children will follow. The children already have that. So it's more like the children have that, but then maybe we will notice that in them, you know, that type of experience. And I think it's really powerful. Like, once our generation, you know, becomes the old generation, I really feel this new generation of children really are all awakened already. And I really feel like that this is the change at the start of the new paradigm, because we're setting the field already for them to kind of make changes. We're like, you know what, we're not perfect, we have traumas, we're trying our best here to work on all this generational trauma that's happened through us, through schooling and through life. But we can see the potential in you, we love you, we want you to thrive. And I know any parent would want that, right? But I can really see that people are really drastically doing that for their children and allowing that space for them to rise up into who they're going to be. And then I think from there, their expectations of life, that will become normalized for them. And so then their generations will also have a different angle. It will be kind of yeah, definitely less trauma induced and more empowered and more sovereign and more, you know, more beautiful. That's just how I see it, like kind of this flow on effect in a way.
Yeah. And that's it. That's also what I felt like working with adults, the families, with the team and with the children. For me, it was like the focus, it's the adults, it's the caregivers in a way. So how can I bring my energy into this. Because if we work with the caregivers, if like professional or not, when you are a parent, you are a caregiver, that's it. Like if you go there, you can bring the safe hub for children anywhere in their homes and in any school. So instead of creating these small hubs that can happen, and they are very beautiful. Yes, I believe you were seeing it as it was, because it's very beautiful while it was happening. And I've seen many getting born now. Portugal is now, for the last 3 years, it was waking up for all of these, and we have a lot of projects, and we have now a lot of projects who bring children daily to nature. It's very good, and it's needed parallel work to be done with the caregivers. And it's not being done on a long-term, mid-term perspective. So this lifelong learning, it's more, there's a pop-up intervention here, there's a pop-up workshop there, there's a pop-up, just popping up stuff that happen and go. And now we are more focused in bringing what would be a river or a stream of experiments where this community that we create for the families locally could exist among the caregivers on a more broadened way. And also this pandemic situation came to show this, like we are now connecting because all of us were more attentive to online. So how can this be a local community as well, that people would gather and have their training in person, because that is our aim, to bring humans back to connection with humans and with land, so physical. But how can we put internet to the service and all of these apps to the service of these people then feeling more connected between physical experiments? So all of these that you shared, it's super aligned also with what I'm now interested in and the work we have been developing. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that leads me into another question that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast, and you can answer it from any perspective or anything that's coming into you from the future, because the future is now. And so what is your vision for a new paradigm of education? If it could be anything, what would it be?
Yeah. If it could be anything for me, it would be this, that we just take the children outdoors, like just let's forget about indoors. So of course, shelters would exist, but on this perspective, as a shelter, if it's heavy raining, if the child is more comfortable indoors, but not like compulsory. So then on the new paradigm, I see a lot of nothing compulsory. Nothing as an obligation, like more respect for the child, for whom they are, more observation of who we have in front of us, respect for the caregivers, respect for the children, like an educational system who would have space to just be, that you could really be yourself. And schools could be more creative hubs, or could be more experimentation hubs, and children would go there during their day to have fun, to experiment emotions, any emotion, not getting told, oh, boys don't cry and these kind of things, and just being supported, that adults would be there as caregivers, as facilitators of the process, as holding the space, also the energetical space around the children, so that they could feel safe to explore themselves fully. That would be like my dream. And yeah, I see a lot of laughing and running and playing around, and adults becoming children again, and everyone just going to party every day. That's how a school is supposed to be, not this serious thing and squared thing that it's like the mimic of a factory or a business. You have time to get there. You have your entire life to be business playing if you like it. But this more hands, like one of my inspirations was Mr. Satish Kumar, who I don't know if you know him, but he has 2 very beautiful TED Talks. And one of them that is education with hands, hearts, and heads. something like.
Okay.
It connects me a lot, and for me this would be like the inspiration where you can experiment. You learn how to make your own bread, you learn how to grow your crops, and you learn how to be human in a way, right? And yes, that would be more or less around
I love
that.
it. It's so beautiful. Let's go to Portugal, everybody.
It's not yet happening here, but yeah, come and maybe we can make
the future is now. No, I see this happening, like even in my country in Australia, which I've noticed now a lot of people have stepped away from the mainstream schools. They're done and they're building these hubs. And so I can imagine people are considering, well, what do I need? Like, what are the basics that I need? Then what are the legal requirements? What can I do within here? Who am I going to bring in and how's it going to be? And then there's also this space of like, we don't need to know anything. Let's just flow and let's just party. I love it. I love it. And I can feel what you mean by party as in like joy and happiness, not like the old fashioned way of partying where it's not helping anybody, but this beautiful place of joy and happiness and love. And everybody can come in with their gifts. You know, you can have dancers or musicians or artists or meditation teachers, or the children could teach us something. And yeah, I really see a place for everybody, because I think everybody has a unique gift to bring to the world, you know. And so if everybody would have that space, then we wouldn't all be kind of seeking this thing that's outside of ourselves. It would already be in us, right? And we just go there and just present our gift. And I also see it's like the end of separation society. It's like this connected society that we become a part of, like massive connected society, you know, the old framework of like, I go here to work, you go there to work. It's all like this kind of almost union of everybody. And maybe that's for some people it might, maybe not, they're not ready. They're like, wow, all day with the family, all night with the family, what do I do? But
Yes.
for others, they're like, wow, yes, I've been wanting this my whole life, like, let's do this.
Yes.
And I guess for those who aren't ready, there's always that chance to share community. Like if you need to go and have your own space or your own mental health space or whatever, you could always, you know, be sharing with other families, that type of thing as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm super aligned with that. Definitely.
Yeah, I was just dreaming a little bit as I was sharing. I'm like, this is really fun. Yeah. So if anybody wants to find you, or you wanted to give any more offerings to people, could you just share a little bit about that so they could reach you, or if you had any more wisdom to share before we finish for our day together?
Yeah, I'm on the basic LinkedIn, so you can always find me there, Vanessa Aires. And I'm always open. You can just drop a message, and I think it's connected to one of my emails also. You can do it through there. And if you are in Portugal, I'm more than happy to go out for a coffee or a walk by the river. I'm based in Lisbon, and I'm always happy to travel around the country to meet people. And yes, one message would be this: if you are a parent or if you are an educator, just bring your children outside with you. If you don't know what to do, just give your hand to them. They will guide you. They will know. Somehow they will know. Asking questions. If you start asking questions, why is this color? Maybe it comes up storytelling, and then it's fun. And then you can go around and more storytelling. So one last thing would be that, to invite everyone to just give it a try. Give it a try, like not only to the beach where everyone knows already what to do, but challenge yourself to go a little bit into the woods as well, and to go to the neighbor's garden and ask the neighbor, what are you growing on that crop? Maybe, no, it's a start of a conversation. So yeah. Yes,
that's really beautiful. There's so many other questions I have. Actually, just before we close, I have one more final question because it just came to me. So because you're talking about nature, and you know, maybe people who are not in nature yet, they're just in their homes, bringing that aspect in. But the people who are already there in the principles of permaculture, like, is it something that you need to kind of get wisdom from others to set up these permaculture things, or is it something that you can just know? Because I know if I would look at the land, I'd be like, well, what do I grow? When do I grow it? Like, it's such a big topic, isn't it? And I don't know if I've touched on that. It's probably for my own interest in people that are actually really wanting to do this. Like, what would you suggest for that would be like a starting point? Like, they could contact you, of course, but what else?
I would always go see who is around, to see who is around in your local community.
Yeah.
Because I won't put myself on a plane to do a consultancy. There's a lot of permaculture designers around. And if it's regarding education and children, there's one project who was supported by European Commission, which is called Children in Permaculture. They are a collective of 5 or 6 countries in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And they have developed this manual. It's like a very little book, and it's also in PDF, like open source online. But if you want to support them, then you could also buy the book and they send it to your home. And it's amazing because as a lot of guidance, it's very clear introduction to permaculture. Like my team was not permaculture designers. We did an introduction to permaculture with them, of course, but then all of them read this book. And it's a really, for educators and parents, it's a really insider in both like how to apply permaculture to pedagogy and to education.
Oh, beautiful.
And this book is amazing. And they also do trainings, some online and some in person. And this can happen. And then in Australia, I know that, for instance, Brenna Kinlan with McGee from Vegetable Sound Systems, they do a lot of initiatives. I've spoke to them. They do a lot of initiatives in schools, bringing permaculture to schools through music.
Oh,
and
wow.
this is amazing. So if you go and Google vegetable sound system, it's a very good way to get yourself inside of permaculture while listening to music.
That's
and
amazing.
They are from your country. Yeah, they live there.
I'm so glad I asked that question. I feel so satisfied now. I'm like, wow, now I know what to do. Now I know where to start, because it's like this wisdom sharing on these podcasts. And then I think also these tangible aspects are also helping people as well. So thank you for connecting those two aspects for myself and for others. And thank you so much for your time, for sharing with us all here on a New Paradigm of Education podcast. It's been such an honor to share this space with you and to learn about your heart and your wisdom and your life. And yeah, so anybody who's tuning in, thank you so much, and we will see you in another episode. Namaste, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.